Yep, okay. Okay, it is 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Roll call. And kick us off, Mr. Cindy. And Deborah McIsaac, Mayor. All President of Council. Let's go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Well, welcome. We have a public hearing today, and this is just a follow-on from the school and adjusting the two ordinances to make it map to real time from what it was in 2000 or what it should have been written as in 2010. And I think for the purposes of simplicity, it worked really well last time in the planning and zoning meeting that we went over both of them at the same time, and then we did, the pro arguments and then did the con arguments and then handled it all as one because they kind of overlap. And so let me get over to that. So everybody can. Ed did a great job explaining this, and basically, what had happened is that when the zoning regulations were written in 2010, they did not note the setbacks that already existed in the zoning regulations. And so basically what we're doing is we're writing the shed. And, so we did a couple of notices of the fact that it's a school, and then I think it was the NRC, wasn't even the NRC too? So NRC and a school would then necessitate 0 setbacks. And so otherwise, the other ones all remain the same. Do I got that right, Ryan? Okay. And so, so that is a very simple correction that should have been done 2 years ago. Don't know why, but that's okay. We'll do it now. And then on the next one. Ed did a much more technical description. I hope it was one of my terms. So 309 is the same thing. This was the number of parking spaces because initially, in keeping honest here, initially the zoning regs required a certain number of parking spots for the high school and a certain number of parking spots for the elementary. And so, but when you're looking at it, you were 13 spots shy in the high school, but when you look at the facility as a whole, you had enough. So we thought, okay, well, the facility is used as a whole whenever there's events, whatever it is. So it's just common sense that the facility is used as a whole when you're counting the parking spaces because we surround the school or something. Right? And so what we did is we adjusted the 2010 ordinances to be able to map to the common sense solution of that. And so that is the verbiage from that. So because this is a public hearing, we have the right for the public to make any statements for any guests. So anyone that wants to make a statement for is welcome to do so. Okay, any statements against? So that was the easiest public hearing we've ever had. And so council discussion in the first reading of the ordinance. So because this is the first reading, we really don't read the whole thing. We just say the ordinance number and make the explanation. What we do then in the next one is we have any discussion if there's any massive change to the ordinance. And so because this ordinance is thoroughly vetted, I'm not sure does the council have any adjustments or anything that they want to do with these ordinances? Okay, well then let's consider this our first reading of the two ordinances then. I think I need a motion to close the public hearing, don't I? Let's just do it to be safe. Travis, why don't you give us a motion? So we got a Travis, we got a Ryan. And all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Public hearing's over. Oh, the Bulldog Avenue, we're going to handle that at the regular meeting. And so we're trying to figure out the nuances, as if it needs to be a hearing, if we just do the ordinance or what it is. And since we have time, since you guys don't have to put in parking lines next week,
Right.
we'll be good to go. So we'll be handling the angled parking at Bulldog at a later date. Yeah, yes, sir.
Just for people that are watching it, getting several times.
Well, I don't care about that, but
I just figured it.
I always like to know when the sun is working around. Can you hear me now? Is that better sound? Usually the eyeballs light up. Sound check. Maybe check, maybe 1, 2, 3. Okay. Usually it's that. If anything's causing us a problem, it's that because it gets jiggly. So. Well, thank God mine wasn't the technical explanation. We got Brian. I don't have my phone. I can't even check with anybody. So. Jiggle, that's a technical term, Mr. Sending. Very technical. But it appears as though we should be okay. Okay, cool. And then, if we find that there's a problem, I can do a quick summary. So, okay. On to the special meeting then, of business. So we have the summer rec program. And we have been in conversations, consistently about summer rec. And how we can make that happen. We went from a potential half-day program to ideally a full-day program. You know, what are we gonna do? What's it gonna look like? How are we gonna stop it, et cetera, et cetera. So, we had some conversations with the school and they were generous enough to provide a facility. Well, we talked to them. And so, between, the YMCA, the city and the school, we are about 85% of the way to getting a full-time summer rec program for the city. And this is not fully approved yet, but just for the purposes of, kind of lining this out. I really wish I knew the sound work before I go into this, but, the ages would be from 5 to 11 for sure. Well, let me back up. The YMCA was a full-time day program, in Hartford. It's been very successful. It's been very well received. This year, they sold out in 30 minutes. And so so basically, we're taking the success they had in Hartford and bringing it to Baltic. And so what they do there is they have ages from 5 to 11. It's 8 weeks. Preferably registering a minimum of 2 weeks at a time. Lunch and snack is provided. There's going to be field trips 3 days a week. Well, it'll be a combination of field trips and swimming 3 days a week. Wild Water West 1 day a week. And then most likely Friday would be in-town activity because that's usually when parents want to pick up kids early. So it's kind of trying to be flexible on that. Being all day, typically what they do in Hartford is they start at 7, they end at 6, but we're still nailing down times. We're still working out whether or not we can get swimming lessons in this program. We're not quite sure yet on that. But here's what's really exciting about this, because we're not building this from the ground up, and I have to shout out to Marissa Whipple. She's been amazing because she's played a huge role in having the summer rec program and coordinating the summer rec program in the past. And so she gave me a lot of guidance about what we can do to get things started. She's also put feelers out for people that might be interested in staffing this, because the YMCA's biggest problem is staffing. So it's finding people that are interested in doing this. So we've been talking to them about the positions, what that would look like and what we would need. And so we're looking at an administrator, kind of a point person for the site, then 2 co-managers and then counselors from there. I think there's 4 classrooms available to us at the school, which caps us out at 60 kids, depending on what the demand is, but we're capped at 60. We had previously talked about 11 to 13-year-olds going on the afternoon shuttle, to go to the activities of swimming in the Wildwater West. But we have to figure that out because the YMCA's requirements is that they have to be there all day. They have to pay all day if they want to play, and so, which is tough when you have to pay the fee is $150 a week per child. Which is great for all day daycare, plus field trips, plus lunches, plus snacks, plus everything. That's a pretty decent price. Also state assistance. If you accept any, or if you're eligible for state assistance, you're also eligible for that in this program, which is great. So reduce rental state assistance, also make this a very affordable program. They also said that there are individual scholarships for individual situations. If you're one of those less families that make just enough to not get assistance, but still have to pay those expenses, because, I can definitely relate to being in that pocket. There are situations where they can approve those families. And so everybody is welcome to apply. There is an online registration system. There's an online billing system. It's very seamless. Like I said, this is a plug-and-play model. All of this information will be absolutely released the minute we are 100% go. So there's just a couple more things that we need to nail down. With the insurance of the YMCA's provider, there's just a couple of little things we got to get. And then staffing. So if you know anybody that loves kids, that is looking for something to do in the summer, we're looking for the administrator, 2 co-managers and counselors, potentially a bus driver. Well, not potentially, absolutely a bus driver. And potentially lunch servers, because with the snack and lunch, we need someone that can, put the food together and that type of thing. And yeah.
So we can learn from half a day to full day.
It will be a full day because they'll just run the whole thing. So the city,
Any idea what that drop off times would be?
as I'm thinking it starts at 7 in the morning and it goes till 6 at night.
Close.
Yep, 7 to 6. And so, again, I hesitate to make this a formal announcement because we're not completely done yet, but once all the T's are dotted and the I are all the grass I's dotted. I need more coffee. I need more coffee. Yes, because of the field trips and Bob's, city's insurance covers it. Yep. That was one of the things we had already worked out. So we just need to get the license plate and and the VIN number, and then we're good to go. And, yep, and the driver. And so, we could use help with identifying who those people might be. And then once all of that is done, then we'll formally announce, release the registration and let people sign up. So we're shooting, yeah. That's unusual. Well, good for us. Oh, I guess
I sent some feelers out there. I mean, maybe we can get a couple of them.
You have someone on and they let me know if it's better.
Video is small.
From here on forth, everybody talk like Charlie Brown's teacher. Well, here's what I do know is when there's a lot of people on teams, it looks when you're watching it live, that's what it does, but the recording ends up being. Well, like I said, well, it should be here. Related to an engineer. Yep, yep. Everybody get out, we're starting over. Oh, boy. Hold on, I'm waiting for the recording to kick in. That's right. That's right. I'm so glad this is all recorded. It's fantastic. So the lights went out in Georgia.
Meeting out.
Oh,
Started. Download the meeting out app on your phone.
I got great ears.
She's got mom ears. She's got mom ears. All right, so now,
Something's flipping.
Hi, I'm meeting out.
Here's to be
Started.
going just fine.
Download the meeting out app on your phone.
The eyes turned off.
yeah, I'm not seeing.
And so did your camera.
There.
Your camera isn't on.
There's my L.
There it is.
No, you're up.
Now you're up.
There it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, here I thought this was gonna be a nice short meeting.
Thumbs up.
Yes.
Wow.
You're up.
Well, let me start from the very beginning.
No. No.
Well, we'll put this all in the notes and everything, and since everything else is gonna be done again, we're rereading, we're doing the ordinance next week, so there's nothing big there, and Baltic Summer Rec Program, we're gonna be putting more information out for that, hopefully next week.
Have you
So,
put fields out in the shopping guide for the summer rec program? I don't know if you were just putting,
I think I put a heads up, save the date. I
yeah,
didn't ask for.
right, yeah, I was just saying, just the initial feelers to
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah,
that there's interest.
we've been
reached out.
kind of like summer rec might be coming, save the
Right.
date,
Right.
and then now it's gonna be like summer job, well, we did do a summer job posting because of your posting, so then we were waiting to see if anybody responded to that.
Do we have any historic stuff, on how many kids we would get in past years?
It depends. It depends, not in the recent past. In the past, it was incredibly well received. But
Yes.
because COVID put a real wrench in things,
Right.
it made it really tricky. And so, and then last year, there was only like 8 kids, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
And
With the
so-
Y increasing their fees too, though. Because
Yeah,
once the Y increased the fees, enrollment dropped considerable.
well, yeah, and, I think that staffing was a huge issue there too. But
60 spots seems like that's a good, we'll be fine with that number. We won't probably exceed it.
well, if we do exceed 60 spots, then we need to talk to that gentleman over there to see if we can get more classrooms.
Okay.
So that's where that comes. Hey, if we hit 40 to 50, I'm
Wait,
gonna
absolutely.
be thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so even 30, I'll be thrilled because that's 30 families that needed a service and
Right.
they got it. And so if we hit 60, fantastic. If we blow 60, I'll be calling you going, what do we do? So let's not even talk about it till we get there. Let's worry about it if we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The age group 5 to 11, is that
Different because the YMCA is insured for specific ages.
and
So they can do it.
the reason I ask is, wasn't it 7 as the youngest age before due to the kid to adult or counselor ratio?
That was our understanding of it, but the YMCA confirmed that they can do 5 to 11. So, yeah, I asked that.
And that might impact your.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what was great is when we were first having that meeting with Marissa, and I think it was Jamie Engemeson that was on the phone, and she had said, gosh, is there any way that you can, lower this age to 5? And I'm like, no. And, but now if we can, that opens up all sorts of doors.
Mhm.
And so I think it's gonna be a great,
I think that
offering.
will be big. I've talked
I
to
hope
people,
so.
and there's people are saying that there's not enough daycare in town,
right?
not enough openings for their kids for the summertime. And the same people are also saying that they tend to get up early and work later in the summer months,
Mhm.
right? So this could be perfect.
Well, and what's interesting is my daughter's summer job last year was literally picking up kids at 6:30 in the morning to take them to daycare.
Sure.
She was a daycare Uber because the parents couldn't make a jive with what it was. So I'm super excited about this. I think it's gonna be great. The only, we just got a couple more things to nail down, but it's looking good. So everybody be hopeful. And then we just need staff. We just need help to execute it. So that's where we're at with that. It's a huge win. It's a huge win. So, getting that nailed down. Oh, yeah, well,
That's through Del Rapids and the rest of the areas.
I agree with you, but I really think if we can hire locally,
Oh, yeah,
that's the ideal
absolutely.
situation. And like I said, Marissa had, feelers out to people that were already interested. Could you pass that to John? Okay, so that's summer rec. See, now I'm taking all this time because of technical difficulties. Let's see here, new business. So change April 12th meeting date. because-
State hall expansion.
Oh, God, you guys, I give up. Somebody else take the meeting. I can't read. Okay. Summer rec. Check. Job openings, administrator, 2 co-managers, 3 to 4 counselors, bus drivers, snack providers. I covered that, right?
Yeah.
All right. City hall expansion. Oh, last note on summer rec. We're hoping to have all of this stuff nailed down by our special meeting that is next Tuesday, April 4th. So we'll be watching April 4th because hopefully if all goes well and the creek don't rise, we can flip the switch on the 5th. So be watching. Like I said, Hartford sold out in 30 minutes, so we're expecting a good response. Okay, City Hall expansion. We have long been talking about making this room bigger, even though we're not, filled to the gills tonight. There are often times that we are. And so we have tried to get quotes to expand back to the super secret room that is behind this wall. And we have asked multiple people, primarily focusing on local contractors. We've received one actual quote. And I believe you guys have all that. We've had a couple of months to review it because we've had other things to deal with. So are there any questions that you guys want to discuss? And what would you like to do with it?
I'd still like to see some more quotes come in. I mean, however, we gotta do that. I don't know if we have to open it. What is the amount before you have to get to the 50?
Yeah, it's pretty sizable.
Before I have to go to a bid? Okay. I was thinking about that the other day. I couldn't remember what the total was, but
No, it's significantly below the bid amount.
Yeah.
And what I will say is we personally called local people in the area. We've reached out to other people. We did advertise it in the shopper. And for a couple times we did. So we did, the thing is in the industry right now,
oh, yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
everybody's packed, everybody's got stuff. And so it's been really tricky to get the quotes. So, but I mean, yeah,
Can I ask where the funds would be coming out of?
capital improvement.
Yeah, see,
The nice thing about having this expanded is it helps us with our larger meetings.
Sure.
But it also allows other committees to meet here if they'd like to. So it creates a meeting space for the rest of the community to be able to take advantage of if they need to and use this wonderful owl technology to help. We'll make sure that all the power strips are on. Thank you, Jason. And so
That'll be.
it does create some flexibility,
Yeah,
for those types of situations. And then also, if I understand the plan correctly, there'll be a door over here, so you'd be coming in over here. And then it would be a straight in. I mean, we're ADA compliant now, but it would be
Yeah,
definite.
that was a big plus I saw in there.
Yeah.
It really lines up if somebody's in a chair or something like that.
Yeah, so it makes it very accessible.
Yeah, cool, that you're, referring to, I didn't see it in the packet, is that would be something that'll be available for review?
Once it's approved, it will be.
Oh, okay.
And so, it's just typically when we do quotes, we don't publish that in advance because of competitive
No,
information.
that's very, I mean, that makes perfect sense, I just didn't know if I knew what the proper pathway was to see this.
Right. No, fair question. We had talked about that too. And I'm like, well, usually we don't put quotes online.
But you
in
said
advance.
it's under bid or under.
Oh,
budget
yeah,
so
yeah.
far at least, so that's
Absolutely.
promising.
Yeah, absolutely. Under,
Brian,
that's required. Correct.
That money to that fund, Linda showed me that here a while back, that's specifically for this type of use, correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Any other questions? With spring coming, we thought if we were gonna do this, we probably need to make a decision.
With, the expansion, can we, in the future, add on if need be, like if the exterior needs to be painted? Or if then all construction finds anything in the, you know, do we have playroom? You know what I'm trying to say? If he finds a nest in the wall or rotten wood in the wall, that is not figured in the expense.
If I recall correctly, you had that conversation with them, right?
We would probably hold on some of the like stuff that we could do for demo and stuff, because the floor, if you go out there, is not level.
Right.
You actually have to cut this out and demo this, so to save cost. We would do that, we'd cut it out, you have the equipment, we could do that.
I wasn't really involved in this, Ryan was, so.
But yeah, we just do the basic stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it will close the
Gap in the ceiling.
gap in the ceiling, so when,
Which
it-
eventually is gonna affect this room.
yeah, well, it is,
It is, yeah.
it is. So there's just some things that
Moisture.
need to be repaired
All
anyways.
the snow we had this year, that you can see it.
Cool, what other questions do we have on that?
As far as conflict of interest goes, how much are we got to worry about that? All the exhibits, quote from Marshawn Nelson. Is that anything that we need to,
I don't vote.
people have expressed interest, yeah, and, yep, people have expressed, concern on just a point to be made, so.
Sure.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that under South Dakota law, the council determines when there's a conflict.
Mhm.
You guys do that. Isn't that interesting? So if you think there's a conflict, there is. If you don't, there isn't.
Well, and I'll be, Ryan talked to him. It wasn't me, and obviously Mark's a contractor in town, but we also called, I'm my
We
brain.
had two other individuals come in, but they don't hold the correct licenses to come in and
Did you call?
move a wall.
Mhm.
And two other folks were contacted and they don't want to do a bid. They just want to see a layout of what we would like and go from there.
Mhm.
They don't want,
They don't want a slate to make their own
right,
plan.
they don't want a blank, they wanted something, this is what we want, what can you do?
Is that achievable? Is that an option or not?
It depends on how long we wanna wait.
Right? I mean, I don't know.
Right. Is that something?
Well, I mean, what they probably don't want is the what ifs, is what they don't want to give a bid for them to say, we can do it
Yeah.
for $25,000. Because what if they tear into putting a LVL to carry the weight of this roof and behind the other one, it becomes more cost. That's the hard part, and that's one of the things that a lot of contractors don't want to do, so they have to take it to their notion to say they've covered every base on this, and so they're not gonna have a big problem there. And that's, I think a lot of them don't want to get stuck with a quote or a bid.
Right.
Because if there is something that they missed, then it's their cost.
And that's understandable when you're dealing with upgrading older construction. You never know what you're gonna find in those walls, but Brian's.
And that's the hard part is some bump their number up to cover that cost, but if it's not, if they don't use it, it's just pocketed for the contractor and you know, sometimes they won't give it that back, so.
I just want to say, we did make an effort to contact other contractors and, it was advertised. So just no one was interested. I don't know if
Which is
it's
not
too
uncommon.
small a project or.
If you guys, I think, did like when contractors came in for building permits, you mentioned it to them.
Yeah, oh
But
yeah,
it was,
we reached out to people that walked in the door that we knew were building. But probably not a desirable project. You know,
They're again working with an older building instead of a new construction, so I suppose.
It's way easier.
I
to do
think it's
construction.
working with you.
Working it. Think of a 2x4.
Well, it's been a couple months since we talked about it, so I thought I'd bring it back up again.
You know, maybe we could recycle that ad again.
Yeah, I mean, it's my personal opinion, I would sure like to see more than one quote when you're talking spending, you know, in my opinion, a considerable amount of money. You know, it's nice to have a couple you can compare to and ideas. That's my personal viewpoint.
When will,
Well, how do you suggest us getting quotes when we're asking and?
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Cause I'm all
Yeah,
for that,
stuff,
but
yeah.
how do we get them?
yeah, I know what you mean.
Cause we've been trying for months.
how long can we wait before M&L construction is no longer available? Because of other projects. You know, you always gotta take that into consideration that it's spring, you know, and building is gonna ramp up and the availability will not be there. You know, I mean, it's a lot of money, but in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think it's a lower bid than you would get out of Sioux Falls. You know, and City Hall staff has made every effort to look forward, to find other contractors. I don't see a reason to hold back on this. That's my humble opinion.
Yes, sir.
Have we called any other of the, like, the other builders that have done recent construction within the Baltic area possibly, that we have existing relationships with?
That's
Like-
what Linda and Lacey were
I was
talking
just saying,
about.
like Nielsen, for example, I mean, I didn't use that, or like, I personally use Thunder Creek Custom Homes, it's probably not in their thing, but it's like, I'm wondering if we could get a referral, you know what I mean? Like, if we know some of these other bigger builders, maybe they would know somebody that they could refer us to based on the relationships that would do a commercial building or some sort of, you know, addition, you know, that would have that type of availability, and then we could have more of an organic approach to finding somebody that we have a relationship with. Maybe that would work, and it would probably cost next to nothing, just because it would be word of mouth, so just trying to get.
Well, if anybody wants to get other quotes for the job, I'm totally welcome with that. We've been trying for months. So I'm gonna defer, first of all, I feel uncomfortable even being part of this conversation. That's why I keep deferring to the staff. If they feel like they've, you know, done what they need to do, if you feel like we need to do more, and it's the council's decision. And if you feel like it's a conflict of interest, that's okay too. So whatever you guys want to do with me, it's fine.
My question would be, how can it be a conflict when no one else has any interest? If you did want to, it's saying.
It's called no interest. It's not a conflict.
A conflict of no interest.
Right.
Good point.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid.
Travis, you want to run this vote? So I recuse myself, or how does that work if I just completely recuse myself from the process?
Well, you're not really you're not really affecting
No, not.
the vote, I would say, you're just
Okay. Okay, just making sure.
You could refrain from.
Stop talking.
It's the only way. Hey, nobody could hear me before, you know, so it's a good thing I was talking.
I can hear you.
You know, I don't really have a problem with this either, this price, because I'll be very honest with you, when we replaced our roof, when we had that hailstorm, I spent, it was 12 grand. This is like not even 3 times that. So, and this is a huger, bigger.
Seen it on this table.
Yeah, I got it.
Keep talking.
No. The only experience I have is with my roof, so that's it.
Well, replacing a section of my roof, water damage inside, sheetrock, insulation, new flooring, paint. What else? All that stuff, that was at least 15,000 last summer.
This is a lot.
So, I mean, it's just under what? 39,000, just under 38,
Ryan,
36.
you want to speak to this quote and as far as the reasonableness of it?
Yeah, I think whatever we get from anyone is going to, they're going to do it their due diligence, and if they're busy, it's gonna be a substantially high, uncomfortable number, and if it's gonna be low, then you don't want to go a low number, so.
Right.
Well, I've had people like that, you know, they bid it high because they don't want to do that job.
But, and on the, like, with the discussion has been, is since this is a difficult project to judge on how much labor hours you're going to put into this, it's hard to even comment. It's not level concrete that they're building on, so there's concrete work that needs to be done, there is framing work that needs to be done, so it is a very intense little project. It doesn't seem like it's a very big project, but it's pretty intense
Labor
because
intensive.
nothing is.
And tight.
Like that.
And it's cheaper than building a new school.
A smidgen.
Got a question?
Yeah. Partners with like Southeast Tech or CTE having education.
Nope,
Process?
we didn't pursue that. It's not our normal path, but it doesn't mean that we can't.
Yeah, we've, like, they do building houses and developments just for like school credit and you pay.
Are these gonna be A
Materials.
students or C? No, I'm just kidding.
I haven't been in high school for a bit and I haven't gone to.
You'd almost have to have a master builder that would, facilitate that.
From what I know from that program, they start from the ground up.
Mhm.
They don't take existing and go from there, but I could be wrong.
They might add an advanced or have some interest from students.
It's not a bad idea though. Yes, sir.
The quote that you received, you made some pretty solid points about the fact that, you know, the what ifs, right? Is the quote that we received, is that like an all in, like, so like the price wouldn't change? Because what happens if that original contract comes in, they open the walls up, it's full of black mold or something, right? Like, would that?
The walls are raw.
But does the quote have the potential to go up based on what they find, or is that number a hard number and that's just?
I was talking about this just now.
Come back and renegotiate.
Generally, in the past, what we've done is approved to that amount, whatever amounts in the quote. And then anything that comes in that, hey, we've got bigger problems, we need to come back for council approval to approve the additional spending. Typically is how it's always worked in banks. So generally, when he has approved this quote, approved up to that amount that's listed on that quote. Anything beyond that needs to come back and for council approval.
I mean, informal.
Well, you gotta put them in this lot.
We sort of like a changeless
Thank
the other
you.
way.
I suppose at that point, it would be like, you kind of almost have to make a move right now anyway, because if they get halfway torn in, I mean, you don't really have much of a choice whether or not to approve it, because it's like, what are you gonna do with a building that's half torn apart, right? I mean, it's kind of like, you're gonna have to make a move real quickly, I would assume, because, you know, things get wet, it gets worse, you know, or whatever, things are exposed, so they're not protected anymore, like, just those sorts of things, because I've had a couple of, you know, personal experiences with that, and it gets ugly quick, like we've all seen and, you know, had personal experiences with, so I just didn't know if there was provisions in place that would like keep that from escalating to a point where it would eventually be, you know, a very, very high quote that was nowhere near the original number is all.
I guess the only thing I have in response to that is Ryan and Ben will probably be keeping a very close eye on the project. And if there's anything that shows a red flag, I'm sure they'll put, you know, a halt on it and say, wait a minute, hold on. And then, you know, go from there.
Ryan, what is he available now? And
I do not know.
They don't, okay.
Okay. I think this would be when he has availability.
Okay.
For what it's worth, that contractor built my daughter's home. And in getting to know him, what we figured out is with him being small town, his reputation is extremely important to him and valuable to him. So the situation that Brian was talking about, I would be extremely amazed if it would ever even get anywhere near him coming back and trying to push the number higher and higher and higher, simply because of the man that he is and his reputation in this town. You can't put a price tag on it.
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, we do have a motion on the table. What do we want to do?
Nikki, did you second or not?
I did.
Just making a
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I apologize, Nikki. I literally am going to mess up every, okay, perfect.
Your technical
Oh, my goodness. Every part of this meeting is gonna just go awry, isn't it?
Well,
Okay.
you guys usually beat me to the punch.
And here she came in ninja stealth and nobody heard her. Okay, so we have a first, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
We have, the motion passes.
Can we poll the vote? Poll the vote.
Absolutely. Can we pull the votes?
Ryan Sending,
Aye.
Nikki Oyen,
I,
Brian McGreevy,
Aye.
and Travis Shears.
Nay.
I guess then just check on availability and see what's going on. I'm sure, Linda, you will manage this process as well as you can. I don't know, Linda's gonna manage that. I'm sure of it. Okay,
Get her.
on to new business. We're on new business, right? I better double
Yes,
check.
April
Okay.
12th meeting date.
Thank you. So we're going to, the April 12th is the date of election, so we need to change our regular meeting date, because typically,
No,
April 11th is
April
the
11th is,
oh my God, okay.
is the election.
Let me look at a calendar.
April 11th is the election day. Originally, we had moved it to April 13th at the last meeting that we were on. Just to try to bop around between scheduling conflicts between all of us. We basically need to canvass the election instead of having a meeting on election night and then coming back right away and doing another meeting to canvass the election. In years past, we'd always just push that meeting back within the next week. Usually we move it to next Tuesday. We talked about moving it to the 13th. Some scheduling conflicts between all of us and myself, kind of more than everybody else, but the 13th now doesn't work. We kind of talked at one-on-one a little bit about moving it back to the 12th. I think everybody's in pretty much agreeing that works for them. I told Lacey I want to make it on the agenda just for an official conversation in case anybody doesn't. It doesn't work for them, but if it does work for everybody, to move it back to the 12th, that Wednesday, which would be the day after the election. And then I confirmed with Linda that is enough time to canvass election. All should be a go there. So,
Thank you for that.
well,
Do we need to vote on this? Is there anyone that? Okay, good. Then we're just gonna officially change it to the 12th. How about that? I'm afraid to talk about this next one. What is it?
I think we do need to make a motion to set the canvassing the vote date,
Okay,
just to be safe.
so because we're changing our regular council meeting to April 12th and canvassing the vote, we're going to need a motion to have our canvass vote date set.
Make a motion to canvass the votes on Wednesday, April 12th.
second.
I heard you.
John Schneider.
I got a first, I got a second.
I don't think it really matters.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor to move the canvassing date and the regular meeting to April 12th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, passes. Okay. I'm not even touching summer sewer rates. Who's gonna handle that one?
I got a little bit of background in years past. Summer sewer rates. I believe the first 4 months, set your average. The next 4 months, you go off of that average of your first 4 months in case for the people that water their lawns, stuff like that. Your sewer rate is essentially a mathematical calculation off your fresh water that's used. So instead of jacking up your sewer rate because you're using more fresh water, typically we back that sewer rate down because technically that water is not going in the sewer. It's just running on the curb and into the storm drain. We've always done that in years past. I don't know if there's any changes. We talked about moving months around a little bit to try to make it more advantageous. In my opinion, you're kind of stuck with Mother Nature dictating whether it's advantageous or not. So
What's our current dates?
right now it is January, February, March, April are all the months where you dictate your average. May, June, July, August is the months in which you benefit from the summer sewer rates. I do believe, or if it's on your water bill, if it's a line item on the water bill, or how that was always laid out, but usually you'll notice it on there. There's been conversations in the past about moving it an additional month, whether you take the first 5 month average and then average it 5 months after that, to try and take advantage of September. A lot of people water into September because generally it is fairly warm through September or dry. And we had a conversation even with the last council about that, but we never really,
So are
Made a
you thinking of doing January through May to set your average for June to?
or I would probably keep the January through April, just because you're not gonna be watering your yard in April, more of a chance of watering it in May. It did not change your average too bad, but having your swath be, whether it's from May to September or June to September.
We did.
That's kind of what the conversation was.
A lot of people watering in September.
Yep.
In October.
Yeah, we
Bob did.
were surprised by, when they went off in September.
Season changes, man, you just don't know.
And, I guess not knowing, we should have warned them. Not knowing what we know now, it's like,
Right.
don't forget, your rates will go up next month, but
Yep.
it would be nice to lower those 1
Yeah, I'm not opposed to going through September to doing it. That gained traction last time we talked about it. I remember Brendan Tiedemann was adamant about that, the people that he had talked to. I'm definitely not opposed to that. One thing to remember, I don't know that there's any other town that does this either, from what
No, they
I
don't,
recall in years past.
they don't.
It's a very unique thing that definitely benefits. Right, don't,
I think there are, though. I think there are.
Are there?
Double check.
remember that was the thing, even,
Name 7. No, just kidding.
There was some
Yeah.
that used to do it, but then they reviewed it based on the state water plan.
Oh,
They took that off because your state funding is generated
So,
on.
does it
For-
affect our?
yeah, I
state
was just gonna ask that.
At all? I mean, is
One more month.
well, I didn't know if it was how it was set up existing. Does that change
Are
anything?
we to guarantee a minimum? I mean, is there a minimum that we have to guarantee and will that affect the reduction in billing?
But technically, it shouldn't really matter because
You have to guarantee.
you're not really changing. If you don't use I'm just thinking out loud, if you don't use sprinklers, it's not really gonna change your usage.
It's just on the sewer side that you.
Right.
But usually there's enough there that it'll average out. And there's enough there covering all 12 months.
Linda, do you want to research that though, to make sure that we got our ducks in a row
I
on that?
can't imagine it would
We don't-
affect it because we've done it for.
Have we had SRF
long
loans
time.
in the past and done that?
Yes, usually the rates are high enough that there is always a cushion there.
Okay,
So that they're always built in there. It's just, it gets, depending on how long you go, it's always been figured in there.
as long as we can, I mean, as long as we're covered, but Linda has squishy face, so I'm,
Well, I know that's why the state likes to go with like a surcharge anymore instead of with rates, because your surcharge is guaranteed money. So that's why they like, a surcharge on here.
that's right, so we're okay. Ryan just fixed it.
That guarantees.
I know.
For the new stuff, but the old stuff is under the.
So we should be okay. Because the new
I would
SRF
assume it would
loans
be
are
okay
covered
based
by
on-
the surcharges.
Yeah, based on everything else that we've had in years past, I would assume it'd be covered, but
Yeah.
probably.
No, that makes sense
good
now.
Just to check and verify that, but.
Can check and kind of do a spreadsheet on.
So do we need to vote on whether or not we want the summer rates to go into September?
So would that be like, you have to make a resolution for that, or how would that work? Or we just vote
Could be by resolution, which, yeah. Spring part is held in South Dakota, that a resolution and a motion are basically the same.
Right. Yeah, I know, in years past, we've had multiple resolutions for stuff.
Yeah, you could do it by motion,
Just by motion is voted on.
or you could call it a resolution and put it in minutes as a resolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
your call.
Yeah, if we're good for just a motion, I'll make a motion to extend summer sewer rates through September, so May through September. With your,
Do you need exact
Average.
dates? May 1st through September 31st?
sure,
The bill.
Billing, we go off.
Oh, billing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this in that last meeting, so I'd second it. We talked about that in the past. Made
We've been
sense.
talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brendan's gonna be so happy.
he will be.
Okay, so we have a first and we have a second. Travis is the first, Brian is the second. All those in favor of moving our, summer rates through September, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Perfect. On to more fun things, like running. I don't know if you guys know this, but Baltic has a marathon.
Did you?
And the marathon is mainly marathons, a prairie series. They've been here, last year was the 5th year, wasn't it, Travis?
I believe it was.
It was the fifth year. And so they want to come back. And the thing that's really cool about this is, you know, you're like, where are they gonna run a marathon in Baltic, South Dakota? But they do it in River Park and they do the loop because the campground hasn't opened yet. So then they have a counter and they have a loop and they have this company that comes in and does marathons. There were people that came in all over the nation for this thing. It was crazy.
All over the world.
Yeah, there was actually people internationally that have come
Yes.
too. And of all ages too. I mean, it's not like you're not like sitting there.
Before I
It was
come
incredible.
back, yeah.
Yeah, because I went down and I talked to the guys and it was incredible. And so the thing, that, you know, so they want to come back again. And so they have a permit. We just need to approve their permit, but also on a side, I'd almost want to promote it a little bit more to see if anybody wants to make a little sign or cheer them on or, you know, that kind of, because I mean, the people were just lovely. I mean, they were
Leading
good.
up to, we should do something in our
So they're
paper.
gonna do
ad.
something.
Yeah, you think I should run it?
Great idea.
Do I get an electric scooter? 'Cause that would be great.
If you'd have got that ice rink, got the ski ran it.
I could probably.
Touche. That was a good one.
Ryan, how did it go for you last year?
Yeah, when you ran it last year, it was.
I was out of breath half the time.
I know, you always lose count on which loop you're on. Okay, so we need a motion to pass a permit for them to, what do we need? What do you need? from us,
What
Linda?
exactly is the permit that they filed for?
Well, they're showing that they have their insurance all in place. So I guess it's more of just,
It's okay.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just giving.
Just a
approval.
general-
Yeah, we don't have to close the park, or we do have to shut the
Right,
park
and they
down.
want,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
want 3 sites.
Yeah,
well, and they don't want people driving through, so
Makes total
they can,
sense.
you know,
yeah, it's like they're renting like a bait used to back. in
When the
day.
campground's not even open yet.
no.
So,
But they have a little camp out down there with snack things and all that kind of stuff, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we gave them a little bit more of a welcome? And then everybody just loved the town.
Their request.
Okay, so we have a first.
Second.
Travis, Ryan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
What's
Get that electric scooter on
Date
there and on.
is
May 17th.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the day is
Oh,
May,
yeah. Yeah.
May 18th,
the
Close
race
for both
day
days.
is 18th, May 18th.
it's a Thursday.
You coming up?
That'll be 17 race.
I'm on training to do.
That's a lot of training. That's a lot of training. Okay, so that's kind of fun. So that's coming. Okay, South Dakota Department of Transportation grant.
All right, they, when I was looking at the grant closely, they wanted to know what the city contribution would be, and I apologize to Justin, I forgot to get in contact with him. But I had no idea what, if, yeah, I didn't think the engineering things would be that great for it, but I wanted some guidance on that. Because it's mainly a planning grant, like for Lovely Avenue is what I was thinking. For school, to calm the traffic, things like that. But that was one line item on the grant. So I didn't know whether to put 10,000 or 5,000 or.
We can work together.
Why don't you guys work together on that and bring it to the next meeting, since we're gonna be,
Well, the deadline is Friday.
oh, okay.
Well, sorry, but, yeah, that's why I had to talk about it tonight.
Got it.
Shoot from the hip and.
From the hip on the spot.
Got a ballpark number?
Okay, no, wait a minute.
Well, it is for a grant opportunity too, so I guess one thing that we could do and done in the past is just have approval from council to apply for the grant. That's stepping stone. If it's a grant, typically that engineering fee is paid for. So.
So when they say community contribution, what are they?
Yeah, mainly, and I took it as engineering piece.
A lot of the time it's like a 50-50 grant, so then usually your engineering fees are $10,000 or $20,000. City commits 10,000, the DOT will give.
No,
10,000.
that's not, I'm sorry, that's not what this one is. They said like for, if you have to rent, meeting space, things like that, just whatever we might spend, because they want you to have community meetings on these issues and stuff like that, so they were just wondering what expenses would be, and the only expenses I could think of would be if we had to have engineering.
Or, we have to expand the city council chambers.
I was gonna say, can you put it correct?
Yeah.
So what was that amount?
Yeah. how would you like us to
So it's
address that?
max.
What would be the maximum amount that we should put as a city contribution for something like this?
I'd have to dig into that grant a little bit more
Okay,
with Linda, and I apologize for that. I'm not gonna be able to shoot from the hip on that, but I just want to make
Fair.
sure what we're submitting is accurate too.
okay.
I don't want to miss an opportunity to get some money.
Do we
So,
want,
I believe, doesn't City Hall have the authorization to spend up $5,000 without council approval, or is that less? Which we changed that once, I don't remember, oh, man, the ordinance is right in front of me, but.
I think the
I don't know if
last,
that
the
falls
last
within that.
resolution is 5.
So I thought we bumped it up because it was almost unusable before. But whether that falls underneath that umbrella, or we can.
It's with mayor approval, or it's with a verbal approval, I think is what it says in the resolution.
Council would get mine, but Justin, on something not to exceed.
Depends how big a intensive corridor study we're gonna do, right? You know, level involvement, how many public meetings we want on this one, you know, definitely recommend what they want kind of within those processes, preliminary concept all the way through to final.
And this is something the city wouldn't be paying out of pocket anyway.
Do you know what the split is on this one, Linda?
There's no, they didn't say there was a split.
They were ambiguous.
Yeah, they didn't say there was a split, and then they asked what we would be contributing, so I didn't, know, and I apologize
Well, we're gonna.
that I didn't get a hold of you sooner, because it was on my mind a couple of times, and,
Yeah, it'll be fine.
but,
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
So I-
Let's,
Or as
would 10 cover it? Would
We
10?
can throw it after executive session, and I can look at it during executive session. if you
Yeah.
guys have
Let's do that.
something.
Yes,
Okay.
Let's do that, yeah.
okay.
Can you remind us again what calming traffic is going to be?
I have no idea.
where they have, in Sioux Falls, they have like little islands that come out by school zones. I don't know if they could do that on a highway, but then you slow down because there's this concrete island there.
It's a lot of fun to plow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how's that gonna work?
They meet with the public and identify problems. And then go from there on ideas. And the lady from the DOT said this was a really good fit for their grant, you know, to have a.
Why don't you two talk about this during exec session, and then maybe we can answer your questions better after that, Deb, okay? Okay. Justin, you're up again. Now, everybody hold on, I've got to go into my technology, so let's watch ourselves, okay? Let's do the part.
Yep.
Okay, let me get that shrunk down a little bit. I apologize to you guys online. I don't know if I can share this.
This was just a quick master planning exercise that we completed. Still working on getting some estimated costs on there based off of some recent projects, kind of what we're seeing, trends, et cetera. We'll get that data added. But right now, what I ask council is to, you know, look at this, provide input, insight, kind of what we like, what we don't like. As we're kind of gravitating towards this plan, so inclusion on there. It's really looking at multi-use facilities, right? So we have that basketball court noted on there with some pickleball markings on there. You know, that dual purpose, dual use, we'll also set that up, for Ryan's ice skating rink that way. You can get that up and then council can run the marathon next year, so it all trickles down, you know.
I like the way you pitched that.
Also looking at spot up on that upper right, you know, potentially for a community garden, providing some buffer zones in between the single family residential.
That's a
and
huge deal.
apartment too.
It's like we're talking. I think that's a huge deal.
Yep.
It is.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry. On that community garden area, I know it's gonna be asked, is there gonna be a water source there? Or is there one? Do you know, Ryan?
Is it in the northeast corner?
Yeah,
There is no water source there, but then you need to
Get one.
bring water into the street.
because you know, if they have
Anywhere without water source
Yep.
is
Right,
foolish.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So that would be one of the requirements of
There's
that.
water we can get up there. Yep.
Well, yeah, run a pipe from the hydrant.
sorry.
Yep, nope, I think it's very valid to bring up and address.
Doable.
Yeah, so creating that buffer, the community garden up there, working through some on-street parking up there for that quick, easy access to some of those existing structures, and also looking at that, pulling that existing playground closer in the ball fields as well. We haven't taken an intensive, review on that existing equipment to see if it would be easy enough just to pick up, remove and still be, in working condition, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So that'd be a caveat, really the big thing is trying to get a hub of, all those different play areas, especially for parents being able to supervise this and that. We're still showing that sand volleyball court where that existing is, but, that's where we can push everything. Well, that way, if your parent wants them to shelter under the shade and still within, hearing distance of your kids, shouting distance of your kids, whatever one you want to call it.
Another thing to consider is expanding the parking in light of the fact that there's an amazing amount of use of that field to the south. So we may want to take a look at some additional parking options.
Yeah, and the grade out there works pretty nice right along that parking lot to be able to expand some of that if desired.
It'll probably be mandatory, because that field is not always gonna be available to us, so we'll have to take a look at that. Are those parking spots over by the community garden?
Yeah.
That's really smart. I like that.
They just pull them direct. Correct.
We would have best case for parking along there, let's just parallel, and try to figure out, the biggest thing is the users, do a quick check on how many users we think will be there at all times, maybe that's only 4 spots. So just put that minimal amount of pavement as possible, to keep that cost down.
Keep in mind, you might have to adjust your ordinances if you're for angle parking on.
Yep.
My experience.
Nice point there, Mr. Fears. This was preliminary, just as kind of some ideas to throw out. We also know that we have the fall course.
Yep.
And so we're gonna take a look at that and try to figure out how to make it have a better flow without decapitating people that are going by. So we're trying to figure that out too. But if there's any other suggestions that citizens want, please get a hold of your alderman. We'll put this on the website so people can look at it, because again, this is a work in progress, but this is what we're working towards. Basketball courts.
Huge.
Fantastic idea, because that's the biggest complaint, between that and no kid swings around town, that's the 2 biggest complaints that we get, is that there.
Yeah.
no basketball.
For the size of community we have, to not have a basketball court in a single city park is
That's
great.
that make multi-use one.
Oh, so it would
Yep,
be,
the blue.
B,
okay,
B in the middle bottom.
Yeah.
so that
So,
would
like,
be,
another opportunity to look at if you feel like
Oh,
there'd be a desire for.
that basketball, tennis, and potentially pickleball.
So if you want to
2
do
courts.
dedicated, yeah.
That might be really
That's
interesting to
one-
have the sand volleyball be another sport. Because then that way we could, we need 2 to do tournaments, wouldn't we?
We need to, if we're gonna, hopefully we could utilize something like that in the summertime to do some 3-on-3 tournaments, stuff like that. I really think 2 is.
Now, would the second location be more preferred on that northeast corner of the site up by some of those existing structures, or keeping them both in the south?
I think you want them together.
I
You'd
think
want them
we
together.
did it, you did it with the sand. Does the sand volleyball court get used a lot?
Could that be shifted?
The only thing I know for the sand volleyball or the sand court is during dog days for pennies and coins. Well,
Right,
That's-
you can do
It's
that.
all
You can do
used
that
for.
So,
So, you could
Would-
realistically put a second basketball court there, and I'm a proponent of opening this entire idea up to the public if at all possible.
Yeah.
The more input, the better, and I can't possibly talk to every single person that has viable input in this project, but if it was me, assuming that the sand volleyball court doesn't get used as often as a basketball court, I would put it in place of there, assuming you could fit 2 basketball courts side by side in that particular spot.
Lacey, this might be a great first email.
Are you thinking the basketball courts are going to be fenced? Or are
I
they
think
gonna be
they-
open
I think you'd
courts?
wanna.
They'd almost have to be, wouldn't they?
Well, the reason I'm asking is I love Travis's idea of that space usage where the sand is now. But you've got your baseball batting cage right there and if the basketball court is not fenced, you're gonna run into issues with stray baseballs. With
Clearly, you've
basketball
seen me play horse, cause I spend more time chasing the basketball than I do.
Well, I don't think you're gonna wanna fence it in all the way, because then it's gonna be even that much more difficult to get your hockey in there in case that the dimensions don't work, but you can put tall fences on the north and south and west. or
Well, there needs to be a barrier between the splash park and the basketball, because otherwise some
Yeah.
kid in the splash park's gonna get socked in the head with the basketball.
Brand is, I mean, on your ice skating rink, is that equipment so big you could get it through to the special walkway if there was a fence on it?
We had it 50 by 100, so it's actually the size of a big basketball court is
Okay.
what we would, so if you have hoops in there, then that would be a problem unless you have two courts side by side.
Sure.
And you turned it and ran it down the middle, two courts.
That's interesting. Okay, lots to think about.
But then the only bad thing is then if we have a normal winter what we've had and there is no snow, then you covered up a basketball court for those kids that go out on a nice 40-degree day in
Yeah.
the winter and want to play hoops.
And the splash park, I don't know if that's should be set in stone where it's at. Put it over by the shelter on the east side of the restrooms, possibly. But that would alleviate the problem of kids getting hit in that too.
I think you want it kind of where it's at, in my
By the-
personal
by the
opinion,
park.
with lot of activity going on and whatnot.
Pinch over by that shelter, but there isn't really that much room in the bike path and that fence.
Is water access an issue in that location, or does it look okay?
There's a hydrant there.
There's really a main that runs east and west through the park.
Perfect,
So there's
perfect.
water.
The other thing is the playground equipment. Where you can get best visibility from either ball diamond, I think is always a good thing, right? Because when you're doing these, when you're taking your kids to these events, you know, if you can literally cheer on the one kid while visibly seeing the other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Yep. Yeah.
Well, maybe what we need to do then is, look at putting the playground, I don't know, let's play around with it.
Yeah, look at it, review it.
Yeah.
see what we get For input,
Good
once
point.
we get
Yes.
this input.
Wonderful
we
job.
will Revise, we're working on.
I love the break in the back.
A lot
I
of
do
it.
too.
Yeah, that needs to happen, those poor homeowners,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've walked along that path too, and you can look right in their house.
Oh, yeah.
Well, some of those homeowners literally are the light source for the park, so they turn on their back light and it lights up the whole park.
I
Yeah.
like this natural native buffer.
There are a lot with actual gates in their backyards too that lead to the park, so as long as it accommodates both by being buffered but not completely impeding their ability to access the park.
Agreed,
But like with that
agreed.
prairie perspective, I can get the idea. Yeah.
Justin, great job.
What I've seen in town is people mow a path from their backyard through it.
Yep,
I like it. Now I understand why you feel low.
That's, I think it looks nice, all right, so. Give credit where credit's due.
It's great first draft.
Any?
So what we'll do then is we'll get this on the website. Let's post it on the City of Baltic, Lacey, and say, hey, we're looking for feedback. We'll make this, this email, maybe summer rec. And, the park be our first two emails. What we're trying to, strive is the great communication that the school has with the parents. And so we're trying to emulate that for our citizens, so that way they understand what's going on and we get their feedback, which
Well-
is super important.
Baseball Association, I want to pop a few words.
I actually talked to Barb about
Did you?
that this
Okay.
weekend and I said, you're gonna wanna take a look at this.
Perfect.
So we'll
we talked
definitely
with
get it.
the actual Parks and Rec department.
We don't have one right now.
Is it fizzled out?
It's never happened,
Okay, I didn't
So-
know if that was still.
but we can.
Existing.
Yeah,
I-
we
I
just-
didn't-
we just haven't-
volunteer.
We,
I
you
gotta review it.
wanna head it up?
So,
Went ahead and, yeah, we haven't really put that into motion yet. But this will obviously be one of the things that we could. So, okay. So there we go. Next one, Veterans Memorial Park. Super excited about this. This is super preliminary because we learned something. We learned that that property line right there is where the school owns property versus where the city owns property. And we We're under a different impression that the city had more land going to the east of that line. So, phase one would be to, you have the 21, even the 21st flagpoles on the school property. Did you know that, Bob? I didn't know that.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The 21st flagpole is on the school property. I didn't know that.
They're never sure exactly where they are.
We always guessed, right? We always guessed.
I think all the flags are on the school property. That area is just in touch on.
It's, yeah, it's,
so-
our flags are on,
Yeah,
Okay,
but it's,
most of the data I looked at, it was the flagpole and then that line. So for reference, it's kind of masked over, but where that driveway is shown is where that existing gravel driveway
Yeah.
is at.
which is definitely school property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the school sign is, that little white blob right to the right of it. So just for a little.
So what
context
we're
on that.
thinking, thank you for that. So what we're thinking is the 21 flags. So what the Legion would do is, create some, they're looking for monuments, potentially statues, different things, and they will start with one or two and then work their way, and obviously center the monuments. And then our goal would be to have, extend the walking path that already exists, go in front of the flagpoles, take it down to the street, and then wrap it around the back. So it would be basically a circle around it. At some point in time, the Legion had expressed interest in having a flag burning place somewhere in this presence. We also recognize that the need for parking would be there. So we're trying to figure out what that would look like. And so one of the options, Bob, and not to overstep, is to talk to the school about potentially having a shared space between the school and the city to allow for handicap accessible parking for the veterans that might want to see the memorial. We figured it's a double dip because it also benefits the school to have parking on that side of the football field. So remember when you were talking about lots of dirt and we would have a place to put it? That's what we were inferring, if it's something that we would want to do jointly. And if we would need to change that parking lot so it benefits the school more and still benefit the park, and we did something jointly, that would be exciting. It would be maintained by the city, to be clear. And there are grants out there that are available for ADA accessibility, particularly when you're dealing with veterans. So we are super excited about this idea. I've been in constant communication with Jeff Mott over this, sent him the picture this afternoon. He said, let me know what your council thinks. He and I are both in agreement that this definitely needs to be a phased process. So phase one would be the Legion, well, first of all, announcing that we're gonna do this, right? Because we've been talking about this a long time as a city. So then announcing that we would do it, the Legion would then start moving forward to identify, what their initial monument would be. And then talking about potential landscapers that would want to assist with the effort. And what we could do is just start in the middle and do what we can afford. And as we can add more, eventually the goal would be to have the entire inside loop landscaped. That's what the end goal would be. Because we don't want Ryan and Ben to have to weed whack. And so that is the overlying goal on that one. And Brian appreciates that. And so and then the second phase would be, obviously going for the grant and trying to figure out the walking path. And then working with the school to see if we can get a parking lot. So that is kind of the phase 3 approach on this. And the whole concept of that is making 4th Street and Lovely kind of our future town square. And making it a really amazing entrance point, to our brand new school. And potentially long-term, the entrance to Main Street. So this would be the first step of that.
What about something to add, and it includes you too, Bob, since you're here? When we get to the paving part of it, it would be cheaper in the long run, once this is getting paid, to do a path from there around the track to Bulldog Avenue. Because, because everything's connected from 4th to 5th with that. And that would also give them somewhere to go that way too, instead of down 4th Street, because there's no sidewalk yet.
It'd be something to consider, because right now, Randy plows.
He does.
Yeah.
Down there.
Oh, he does.
It'd be nice to formalize that if it seems, a good solution.
But since if that comes through, since they're already there, cost effective wise, do another path,
I think it's definitely worth discussing. And so, like I said, this was just a preliminary idea of what it looked like when we were planning to bring this. We legitimately thought that that entrance was more on city property, or we thought we could bump it over a little bit, but now looking at it, it's definitely gonna be a co-project. And so, but I'm excited to work with the school on that and see what we can do to benefit the community and see if it works. You know, we don't expect this to happen overnight. We know it's gonna be something that happens over time. And so, but the phase one would be getting the monuments up, and the Legion is very excited about it.
Well, the Legion has been working towards this for a long time.
Long time.
It's been a
Lots of
topic, I think,
years.
since I started on, at least since I started on council.
And they've been building funds for this.
Yes, they do. And so, they're getting really excited about actually driving around to other veterans memorials and picking out which one they want to have, and, you know, and doing all that. And they're talking about more fundraisers. So it's really reinvigorated the local Legion, which is wonderful. So, basically what I need from the council is, does the Legion have permission for phase one, which is to put monuments between the flagpoles and initiate that landscaping process under the full understanding that our two groups are gonna be working towards something like this? That they're okay with it just starting with monuments.
I would like to see them bring an ideal or visualization, I guess, of what they want to do.
That's
to
great.
us, much like everybody else does when, anytime they want to do anything. So instead of,
Yeah.
not that I think anything that they're gonna do is not gonna be a good idea, but just to have a visual representation of what we can see. I'd like to see that. And I can talk. to
Good
them about
idea,
that, too.
Travis.
I
So,
think, I 100% agree.
Yeah, me
so,
too.
so what we were discussing was they picked two monuments because it's an odd number of flags, so you gotta have two, so it's even, because my OCD kicks in. So they would pick two structures to be in the center of the flagpoles, and whatever that looks like would be what they would present to the city then.
Yeah.
Okay,
See that.
and then we go from there, and then, so I'll tell them that that's the next step. And then once we're all in agreement about what that looks like, then we can pull the trigger on this. In the meantime, Jeff did find, some of like 12 to 15 different grants that might qualify for this. So Justin, I was gonna get you in connection with that to see if there's anything with your resources that could help us with that, or if it's something that we can steer CCOG to. Cause he goes, Deb, I don't know how to write grants. And I said, we have people that can help with that. So this is good news. Jeff will be excited. I'll call him after the meeting. He might even be watching. I don't know. And, okay, so that will be the next step. We'll wait to hear from them to come back to us with a, concept of what they want to do. And let's see here. Now we are at council mayor update. I think I've caused enough problems in this meeting. I don't have anything. How about you guys? Bye, Bob. Thank you.
I don't have it. I'm gonna get my council view.
I've got one thing. Riley Kick from Baltic is gonna be going to the National Powerlifting Championship on Sunday. So I just kind of want to acknowledge that. He's a great kid. He's gonna be representing the Baltic School, and it's a big accomplishment.
National contest, isn't it?
Yeah,
Beast, apparently,
Oh.
he set records.
it's amazing.
Just-
You know, and Houston Wenzel has been working with him a lot. I don't know if you guys remember, Houston was, I think, number 3 in his class, or I think it was something like that back a few years ago when he went here. So it's just been a killer combination, and he has been crushing it.
Yeah.
What was his name?
It's Riley Kick.
B as in boy.
Right.
It starts with a B, right?
Yeah, B. Yep.
B as in boy, Riley. As in. Okay.
Yeah. He and his family are taking off tomorrow morning. They're driving down. The competition's on Sunday.
Where is it?
It is in Myrtle Beach.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's.
It's a heck of a trip. Yeah. It's a heck of a trip.
Their trunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need
But he's a
that.
great kid, and he's worked
They need
really
an extra
hard, and I think
That's
it's
right.
fantastic.
That's excellent news. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Got a lot of talent in this town.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else? We gotta bounce into executive session and knock out a couple of things, and then we'll be back. And so for those of you in the recording, I'll try not to mess up the technology. And, so we're gonna leave the camera on, and I'm gonna go ahead and mute, and then, I'll stop the recording, and then we'll start recording when we get back.
Make a motion to go to executive.
Thank you.
At 7:19.
Because I have made this complete debacle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 7:19.
Thanks, Jessica.